Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to continue on with my commitment to make sure I'm singling out the 2019 book releases that I'm reading in 2019 and giving them a little bit more airtime, not just throwing them in the middle of like some long wrap up. Because I know people really like to have reviews about whether or not sort of the new shiny new releases are worth it. So if I read one this year, I want to be sort of passing along my feelings pretty quickly. The first one I'm going to talk about today is The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. If you follow me on any other kind of social media, in particular Instagram, then you know that I loved this. This is probably 5 stars for me. So 5 stars. I will decide final 5 stars like at the end of the year when I kind of compare it to the other books I read. But for right now, this is sitting in a 5-star placeholder, and I just really love what Karen Thompson Walker does. I love her writing, and I love the atmosphere and like the tone of her writing. So this is about sort of a small, sleepy college town on the West Coast. I believe it's in California. Sort of secluded away, sits on a lake. I mean, you know, this kind of idyllic sort of small collegiate campus. And one day, a girl who is living in one of the dorms, she sort of feels a little bit like she has the flu, and then she goes to sleep and does not wake back up. They kind of quarantine the dorm and that floor in particular, and quickly more of the students living on that hall begin to fall asleep and not wake up, and quickly the virus begins to spread throughout the town, and these people who are falling into the sleep, it's sort of like a very active coma because their brains are like hyperactive. They're having these very heightened dreams. And the story follows several characters. So you have the initial roommate, the initial girl, her roommate May is one of the main characters. You're following a young couple who have just moved to town and have a newborn baby. And then their neighbors are sort of a single father and his 2 preteen daughters. He is like a sort of survivalist, you know, doomsday prophecy believing, hoard a bunch of stuff in the basement kind of survivalist. So you see them, and then you see an older professor, and just the various people that come in and out of their lives. It doesn't take place over, I guess, about a year, so it's a significant amount of time, but it feels like very small in scope. Even though this massive thing is sort of happening, it feels so centered on these people and their lives. It's very character driven. I think it's also paced really well though. Like, I think it's one of those with like shorter chapters that you want to keep turning the page, but you're focused very much on what happens to these people that you come to know. And I think there's a lot of thematic stuff that Karen Thompson Walker is doing, and these sort of like dreamy, sort of apocalyptic type scenarios that she likes to write. She's dealing a lot with time, reality, of course, but I think in particular this book is really focused on love and relationships, and how love and relationships kind of are good but not good. I think she is looking at the ways that love can almost corrupt. It's interesting because she at one point kind of says, like viruses often spread because of the love people have for one another. They can't stay apart, and they're being close to each other physically is oftentimes what creates this danger, and that's definitely explored here. I also think this explores the trolley problem, the sort of philosophical, ethical question of the trolley problem. If you've you probably know what the trolley problem is if you've watched The Good Place. You know, they also cover the trolley problem, but I think this book does a really great job at making it very complex and making you have to think hard about it. And not that you won't agree with the outcome that she kind of arrives at about the trolley problem, but just that you'll still feel very conflicted about it, even though you can't really imagine it going another way, or at least I did. And I just, for such a kind of a small story, a short book, it did a lot to me, like in my feels, you know, and it was so beautifully written. I think she's definitely become one of my favorite contemporary writers, and I hope she brings out so many more books that explore the same kinds of things. Like, you know, Age of Miracles was about the world slowing down, the spin of the world slowing down, and the days and the nights getting longer, and how that affects people. And this, you know, showing how a mass virus kind of outbreak would affect people. I just think she does that thing so well. So anyway, that's The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. The second book I'm going to talk about is The Cold is in Her Bones by Peternelle Van Arsdale. I hope I said her name right. This is, I believe, Arsdale's, or Van Arsdale's. How do you even say that? This is her second book. Her first book I have on my TBR, it's been on there a while, is The Beast is an Animal, and I believe it's being made into a movie for Amazon. But this is a young adult, sort of, it feels like historical fantasy. It is a Medusa retelling. There's Medusa character, there's girls with snakes that grow in their hair, but it's not in any way like Medusa of Medusa fame. Like, this is very much an interpretation and an adaptation. It is a very, again, it's also short, and I feel like the sort of sleepy, dreamy atmosphere of The Dreamers is also captured here. This just has an edge of magic to it, and there's like a witch, and there's kind of these fable stories spread throughout. But this is about basically the OG Medusa character in this book being sort of the unruly girl who won't obey the rules, and then she's taken away, hidden away by her family, and then but other girls can catch this, and they end up being possessed by the demon, you know, when they notice the snakes growing in their hair, and then they get sent to this place, and sort of what becomes of them. And our main character, Mila, has she's been very isolated because she's living in this village away from the town. It's not even a village. It's like she lives on her homestead. It's away from the village because her parents are so desperate for this demon not to infect her. They keep her so sheltered. And she doesn't really know why. She does know that they're trying to protect everyone from the demon, but she doesn't know the specifics of it. And you don't really know the specifics of it until she finds them out. She has a brother who's very protective of her, and then their neighbors, the only other family with any kind of nearness to them, have, I think their niece or their granddaughter, I forget, comes to live with them, and then she becomes infected. Everything kind of gets unfolds. She goes on a mission to get her back because they send her friend away. She finds out she's infected, and it becomes this whole fantastical story that I'm sure was just a nightmare in my explanation there. But it's really just about, man, it's about girls and women, isn't it? It's about the ways in which society harms girls, the ways in which society tells girls they have to be a certain way, and the ways girls can either buy into that and perpetuate that very misogynistic cycle, or the ways they can desperately try to break free for themselves and for each other. And it's just, I loved this. It's weird. It gets weird, which I really appreciated. It's slow, but also not in a lot of the same ways as The Dreamers. Like, I think they share a lot of similarities, even though they're very different stories. And so if you're looking for something a little more on the mysterious side, a little weirder in your way, sort of fiction, something that leans very heavy on girls and their stories, I think you could do a lot worse than The Cold is in Her Bones. And it is definitely the kind of book you can sit down and read in one sitting. I listened to it on audio. The audio is also really great. So yeah, I recommend this. If you're looking for something, especially maybe for like a readathon, maybe, I believe there's like a feminist, femlit February kind of thing going on. I think this would be really great for that. Yeah, and I think the cover is really pretty. So I don't know if I did those books justice, but they're two 2019 releases that I greatly enjoyed and would highly recommend to everyone. So I will see you guys next video. Bye.